guys, thanks for tuning in. And first of all, I need to apologize about last week's video. The clarity was not good on the cutting mat because I was using the wrong lens. I had accidentally left my macro lens on the whole time, so focal length was totally out, screwy, but I still hope you managed to find it interesting. I mean, the steps were descriptive, I hope, and it showed you how to make the lines, basically these lines that I made last week. And so this week I'll be showing you how I make my soft shackle. So my version of the soft shackle is an amalgam, I guess, of a few things, and it is inspired by Jeff Meyer's fast shackle. The thing is, with Jeff Meyer's fast shackle, he starts off with a loop here with a lock brummel, and then he buries the tail into here, just like what we did over here for this one, but he buries it here, and then he ends up with a single strand over here which leads to the knot, which then he uses a double overhand. The thing with a double overhand is it's small, something like this, but it's more like barrel shaped. It's not very wide and bulky. It still works, just like this still works, but I didn't quite care for a double overhand knot, and so I'll explain why. I started off like everyone else, I guess, with, I'm just using this biner as an example, with hardware, carabiner, and also, well, some of the more expensive clips, and if you're watching this, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. They are good. This works perfectly fine. It's not too heavy. Let's just put this in perspective. This is a 12 kilonewton generic carabiner. This is 20.5 grams, or 0.726 ounces. A little bit heavy. The titanium hardware is about 7.5 grams per piece, but the one that I finally ended up with, which uses 48 inches of 764, by the way, it's about 6 grams, so 5.8 grams or 0.2 ounces. So it's actually lighter than titanium, and it costs a fraction, because a pair of titanium clips or biners or whatever you call them, they cost, I think, like $20 plus shipping. This thing, you can get a 764 for $5 for 25 meters, if I'm not mistaken. 25 meters? 25 feet. 25 feet. You can, so you need 4 feet to make one of this. So you can make 6 of these soft shackles for for $5 plus shipping. And let's face it, we never buy just 25 feet, right? So my evolution was basically this. Let's turn that off so I don't waste battery. So I started with this hardware and all that. This is also a Jeff Meyer thing, and I'll link it below. I think he calls it his tree clip. So it just basically works like, you put your strap around a tree, put it here, pop it over, and then then you're secure. It works, right? It holds it like that, and it's extremely secure. I've never fallen out. It works really well. The only problem is this is quite bulky, and it uses 3/16-inch line. I guess you could make it with 764, but maybe the knot will not be so bulky and it may not work. I'm not too sure. And the other thing is, this uses a butter knot, so a butter knot buries the tails down into the legs here, and this results in very fat tails, which I'm not really a fan of. So I had this, and I'm not very good at making butter knots, so I was looking for something else. And then I was watching Bottom Up Boats. They are a really fantastic channel, and I'll link them up below. Check them out. They talk about lots of knots and stuff like that, and ropes and what have you. And to be honest, hammocking has taken a lot from sailing. Our Dyneema sheets are basically sails, and so they came up, or rather they were showing how to make what they call the Ashley stopper knot. So the Ashley stopper knot is like this. You can see it's basically a very square knot, and it has the benefit of being excessively easy to tie, but when you're working with this kind of larger knots, it's a bit harder. So this was the Ashley stopper knot. It works perfectly fine. So this is basically Jeff Meyer's quick shackle, fast shackle, fast shackle. But rather than just burying the tail in here, I have another lock brummel here, and it comes out as 2 legs, and then I put an Ashley stopper knot in it. And this works. It works well. It works. I don't think I'll fall out as long as there's tension. Even if there's not much tension, it doesn't really bounce out. It always falls in naturally back into position and locks up. But I wanted a little bit of a bigger knot. So what I did was, I basically did all of this, and then had extra line here, and then I buried this back in all the way to the part that would make the knot. So this is actually doubled up line. It's actually buried line. So I've got 4 ropes in here rather than 2, and this results in a really chunky knot. And you can see the legs actually come out from the middle of the knot, so it results in a nice solid connection. and it holds really well. So that's what I'm actually using here. And if you can see, it's slightly different. What I started making now is like this. I actually leave the loops here. This allows for easier tightening. This I buried in fully, so it's more difficult to tidy up the knot. So we'll go through this now. And this is luxated onto my suspension, which I made last week. And this basically goes in here, over the top, and that's it. And imagine this is your tree, right? And it holds really, really secure. It's not going to pop out. And for whatever reason, if you really want an ultra secure connection, you can pop it through the legs, over the top, and this provides you an ultra secure connection. Also, if you want to use this as a continuous, not really a continuous loop, but for connecting a hammock at the end or something, it has a dual purpose. You can remove it from your tree hugger and use it for something else. That's another reason why I wanted the legs below the knot rather than just running a single line. And this way, it being luxated on, it's not going to fall anywhere. So okay, enough history behind it. So let's get down to it. And let's just push this all aside. This all aside. I'll need this for an example later, but anyway. So the first thing you do is measure up 4 feet of line. I've already cut my line here. You can use, like, this board is 2 feet wide. You can just double up that, or use a ruler, use a tape, whatever. First step is basically to thin the edges. Sorry, thin the tips. You don't have to be too specific because you're not going to have a very significant buried tail here. So as I showed you last week, basically just use your what do I say, whatever. I use my tweezer because it's nice and pointy. Just take off a little bit of tail, a few tails here and a few tails there, and just taper it down a little bit, right? Just do it for about, not even an inch, half an inch, 3/4 inch is fine. And just remove it progressively. Yep, that should be good enough. It's a nice taper there. Do it for the other end as well. Alright, so, oh, I didn't go through my tools. Did I go through my tools? I don't recall. So, what you're going to use today is basically a X-Acto knife or any form of sharp knife, some sort of device to go between the fibers to separate them, and then something to mark with. Any kind of marker will do. Fine screwdriver if you have one, or any kind of pointy solid metal piece that you can use to tighten up your knot with. Anything will do. I'm using number 2 guitar wire, or you can use piano wire, or you can use a splicing tool, a fid if you have it. I never bought fids because they're too expensive. And this is my surgical tweezers, which I showed last week, the locking type, because I don't have a fid. And yeah, I think this is what you'll be using. That's about it. And of course, if you don't have a working mat with a grid, then of course a ruler of some sorts. Alright, but yeah, so now that you've thinned out the ends, fold it over and find your middle, put it in the board and mark out 2 inches. So it's already marked here, but anyway, just mark it out and that will give you the point to start. Right, so now I'm going to put the macro lens on and bring you all in up close. Okay, so the first thing you do is find them where they meet face to face because you bent them there. So happens that this green is facing the other side. Open it up like a basket and you'll be able to see through it like that. And then get your separating tool and poke it through and come out the other side, and try not to split the main weaves. And if you heard that a little bit, I probably broke 1 or 2 fibers. So now use your fid or use whatever tool you have and pull it through. So now you have this line going through this line. So now this line that was gone through has to go through the other line. That's how you create a rummel. So just pull it out, find your mark point, and then split it up as close as you can to this point. Somewhere here maybe. Yep. So as you can see here, put the tool in, go straight through, and just separate it. And now once again, fit-esque tool, okay, pull this through, and now you have your figure 8 of sorts, which we saw last week. And so you just tighten it up. So now that you've tightened that up, so this line went through this line, now this line must go through this line. But first you need to measure your 4 inches. And y'all will be saying that if I want 4 inches, I have to add more for, expansion. But that's alright, it'll work out. So mark 4 inches. I know it's a bit blur, but I'm not taking off the lens for just that. So now that I've marked 4 inches, I am going to bury the line. So before I proceed, let me show you this. Okay, this was the first shackle I made. If you notice, the eye and the legs are on nearly opposing axis. See? So if I put this flat, the legs don't open flat. If I open this flat, this eye is almost vertical. So when I naturally want to put it in over itself like that, because the legs always sit flat on the loop, there's always a little bit of twist. So it's not a lot of problem, it will still work perfectly fine. But if you are starting out from scratch, where this line exits should be paid attention to. So this is my mistake, don't follow this. So basically what you do to avoid this is basically look at where your line is facing the other, and you can pay attention to the fibers. I've got to go inside here roughly. So I have to go inside here, this place. So send your wire or whatever into the right side, the correct side, and push it in, and this will ensure that your soft shackle actually lines up properly, the loop and the legs. And come out as close as you can to the leg. No, I want to come out a bit further. Yep, this is good. And then just take your tapered in, open it up, pop it through the wire, pinch it, and then when you come to bring it in, stack it up nicely, make it nice and fat, and slowly massage it in. Don't force it, just work it bit by bit. It'll slowly follow through. And once it's in, it goes pretty easily, but the first bit is normally a little bit difficult. There we go, it went in. Okay, so once it comes out, just take off your wire, keep it aside, and pull this all the way through. And once it's here, pull it nice and tight to make sure it's all the way in, and then slowly milk it down, hold it at the top, straighten out your loop, just milk it down. So now you should be able to put your loop flat, and the leg should come out flat as well. So now you can see that my loop is, my berry is almost 4 inches, but once I do the lock brummel on this side, I'll get my 4 inches that I need. So just milk it out nice and good, make sure it's nice and tight, and then now you gotta put this into here as close as possible. So look for the hole, find it, open it. Is it balanced? Yep, it's balanced. You can basically count the strands on each side to make sure it's balanced. And then, I know I say that on my almost every video, but there may be someone new here who is watching this as the first video, and if you're new here, welcome. So pull this through, get it locked up, make sure your brummel is flat, and then look at which is the next hole to do. Keep it parallel so that your legs remain flat, and I see a hole here which I like to use. So open it up, it's just splitting tool. Okay, and now pinch that all the way, pull that through, and with this you get your locked Brummel. Right, so you've got your eye, which is just under 2 inches, 1 3/4. You've got your 4 inches of berry with locked Brummel on either side, and now your target is to get 2 inches of leg. So 2 inches of leg, so that's here basically. That's the 2 inches here, which gives you an opening. So from the locked Brummel, measure 2 inches as always, and then mark that off. I honestly don't know how people how to get away without marking, but anyway. So 2 inches, and now you're going to go 7 inches, 6, 7, then you're going to fold back on it, and end your berry just after, sorry, and end your taper just at about the 2-inch mark. So basically your full thickness stops at your 2-inch mark, and then the rest goes into the leg a little bit. So you are going to lose at about ½ an inch. So if you start at 7 inches, you should be good to go. So here, just rough it out, 7 inches, open it up, get that marked up nice and good, and you will get about there. Use your slicing tool, go in a little bit below, because you want your tail end to be fully buried, and just open it up, just get in there, any hole, and then follow the hollow section all the way to the top of the 7 inches. And then come out somewhere the 7-inch line. There you go. Having proper splicing tools help, but yeah, what are you gonna do, right? Pinch that on the loop, and then slowly pull this back. Once again, stack it properly so it can open up, and get it to go in. And once it goes in, it should be good. Alright, there you go. So while this is happening, put your screwdriver in there so you don't accidentally pull that loop through. That loop is actually really, really important. Okay, so here you keep a 1-inch loop, thereabouts, just like you see here. A little bit of a 1-inch loop going, just about 1 inch. And then keep a 1-inch loop, thereabouts, and then you milk it down. And your tail should disappear inside. I've got a little bit left, in which case just pull it out, a sharp knife. I didn't go down far enough, but anyway. So as you can see, as I've milked it down, the thickness actually ends just about that mark there, so I have 2 inches of thin leg. So do the same for this. Okay, so now this is where it gets really interesting. How do you tie a Ashley stopper knot? So let me just get some rope. This is your free end, your tag end. You basically create a slippery knot. So you take your working line, I'm going to call it that, go underneath and tie that. So this is basically a slippery knot, right? You can pull your working end and it will pop out. So take your main line, working line, create a slippery knot, and then take this around and in here and tie it off. That is basically your Ashley stopper knot. That's it, it's as simple as that. Okay, so that was done on a single line, and that's easy. Doing it on buried line like this, which is really, really stiff, is not easy anyway. So like I said just now, hold your tag ends, get your working ends looped around and up to create a slippery hitch. Sorry, a slippery knot. Slippery loop, slippery something. Okay, and now that you see some crossings, just get them sorted. Get them sorted out, alright. So now you've got your tag and your working line working in parallel. And now you have to go over the working end and through the slippery loops. And this is where your screwdriver comes in handy, and the loops which you left at the end of the lines just to pull it through. Okay, so now just square up the knot a little bit. You can see it's already coming out at the bottom nice and square. And what we need to do now is start feeding the line back down so that we can get some slack on the legs, which is what we need. So get this a little bit of tug, leave this a little bit out. So now start working backwards. So from the tails, it goes down here, pull that a little bit, pull the tails a little bit, and then from here it goes to up this way, and then it goes up this way, the loop then goes over the tails and then goes down. Oof. The tails are going to pop through. Put your screwdriver back inside or whatever bar you're using, and then pull it out. We're trying to target the green marks that we left at 2 inches. Almost there, I think. There we go. So now we've got 2 inches there, and now we start tidying up this knot. So pull it a little bit. Basically, if you can feel the knot still be able to squish, your knot is quite loose. So what I do is I actually get a heavy gauge screwdriver. I'll show you. So once this knot is more or less what I want it to be, I get these things. Screwdriver goes through here, spanner goes through here. I stand on this and I pull with this as much as I can. Tighten up the knot. Okay, so this is basically it. It's nice and hard now. I have a problem now. There's a crossover here which I need to fix. So to demonstrate the Ashley stopper knot is actually quite recoverable. You can just loosen it up a bit. This is the first thing that you pull. Shove something in there. Get some of your working end up again. So that's that one. Okay, once this comes up you get a bit of slack and you can rework the knot. So that's the other thing about this knot. I like it because it lets me readjust and adjust, and yeah, the button knot once it's done, right? So I gotta get this out again. Now feed it back through and redo everything up. Where's my green marks? Somewhere there. And the other thing is, if your legs are not balanced, at least now it's balanced, but if it's not, then you can actually just pull one of the lines through and then tug on the loop here to get these lines balanced. But luckily this time around we are balanced. Get this through, this pulled out, pull it out. Yeah, I know some of you will be saying, yeah, but I can make a button knot in the same time. Yeah, well, I can't. And this has the benefit of having the thin legs and all that over the button knot, which does not. So I still think that this is actually quite superior in this sense. So now my knot is still soft. I'll probably go and give it a good tug with the screwdriver and spanner. So now everything is nice and square, and this is quite straight. And one thing you need to notice about this knot is not perfectly flat like a button knot. Like a button knot here, the bottom is like perfectly flat more or less, right? This thing has a little bit of geometry to it. So if I put it in this way, this knot lays really flat along the line. You can see this thing is pointing over there. But if I do it the other way, and I put it through, this knot points upwards. And this is normally the method that I use, because as you're hanging and you hold it this way, this nut is forced to be at a angled position, so most of the force now will be on the neck of the line and not on the knot itself trying to pop out. So that's good, and this is now nice and tight, I guess. And what you're basically going for is, if you look at the bottom, you've got 3 pairs of the rope. 1 pair, 2 pairs, 3 pairs, and that's how you know you got the right knot. So one other thing I'd like to show you, if you can see here, this little part here is quite thick, and that's because well, we stopped our berry over here, right? So I actually like to remove the little bit that's stuck inside here, the berry, so I get thin legs all the way through. So the way you do that is just basically scrunch that up nice and good, and then separate the fiber, and then go in there and give it a pinch. And pull it out. Because it's hollow braid, it's quite easy. There you go, so you've got that. Now pull out as much as you can. And in this condition, it's actually quite difficult to cut with a blade. Let's give it a shot. I've done it before, but it's not that easy. Let's see if you can picture it. Alright, not half bad. Some. And then you basically just tuck it back in, whatever's left. And that's good. And you just close it up. And the fibers bury themselves in the braid. There you go. So you got one sorted, now you got to do the other one. Okay, so that's that, and everything is buried now. And you've got 2 narrow thin legs, single layer, for your soft shackle. So now, as I mentioned, I normally do it this way to keep the knot nice and perpendicular to the loop, and so that would mean that you would have to luxate it somewhere here, so that the other side actually pinches close to the knot when your intention, and that helps to close this loop and keep the knot snug. So that being said, this is my yellow, oh sorry, this is my red one, and pull that nice and snug, get your folds correct. Yep, so that's basically it. Now if I were to go and hang on a tree, just loop it around, and there you go. Soft shackle. So guys, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, drop me a line, message. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and here on YouTube. Be happy to share with you anything that you need to know. I'm also learning. I'm never claim to be an expert, but yeah, if we can share some ideas and all that, it's really fun. Splicing stuff I find is therapeutic, and make some really cool gear. So yeah, that's how I make my Ashley stopper knot soft shackle, and that's it on both my lines. And once the pandemic is up, I'll take it out for a trial run and I'll bring you along with me. Thanks for watching guys, and as usual, drop your comments down below and let me know what you think. Any suggestions, good, bad, what do you think? And as always, thanks for watching. Cheers.